Hey guys, it's Ann here, obviously. And today we're going to be talking about planning and how to make sure it's not one of those things where you're like, this is pointless. Why did I even do this to begin with? Okay, so here's the deal. So we're told, or at least I've been told, put it on the calendar, it doesn't exist. But how many of you have heard that and kind of laughed like, yeah, well, sometimes I put it on the calendar and it still doesn't exist. Am I right? I mean, you spend all this time making a plan, making sure that you haven't forgotten any of the pieces that you want to include. Let's say we'll call it in your launch. And then you put all that stuff on the calendar and then 1 week goes by and you're really good. Second week goes by and you're like, meh, and you just kind of lose track. You just kind of mindlessly go down your list without any sort of active kind of back and forth with that plan. And maybe you decide not to, you're canceling things, you're canceling webinars because of things in your private life. And you start wondering, like, I really love planning, but it seems to be kind of pointless. You know what I'm saying? So today I want to share with you kind of like my number one thing that I do to make sure that I don't feel that way too often, because it can be frustrating because plans are only as good as like where we're headed with them. And sometimes we start off the process one way, that we start off the process of like, this is what I'm going to launch, this is when it's going to happen. And then we discover something along the path. And for instance, if you haven't already done my launch planning workbook, you'll see that one of the first things that I have you do is talking to your peeps and playing detective a little bit. What happens if you start off thinking you're going to launch one thing, but then you launch something completely different to a completely different certain group of people, and that means you're going to have to maybe do a webinar that you didn't plan for. Oh, sorry, it's not in the plan. Can't do it. So I say there is a better way to plan, because there's nothing worse than at the end of a month thinking, well, all that content I planned, all that stuff I planned to do for my launch, well, where's that now? So I hope that you enjoy this, because I think this video is perfect for you, especially if you're planning promotions, if you're planning launches, if you're planning a website, rebranding, whatever it is you're doing in your business. This can be super helpful. And it's actually easier, I will say it's easier if you have someone else doing it with you, but it can be easy, but it can be done on your own. So even if you don't have a team, if you don't have a project manager, that's fine. See, this is actually what a project manager does for you, is that they do what I'm about to share with you for you and kind of and share with you their findings. I'm going to just leave it at that. I feel like I'm talking in code so that I don't give away what I'm talking about, but here we go. So first of all, things are twofold. There is one main thing you're going to do, but there's another piece that I think is important to share with you, and that is you need to be able to focus. You need to know that if you're launching in September, then perhaps for July and August, all hands on deck, like all of your hands on deck, are going to be just about that launch. That might mean that other things you want to, activities and busy work in your business, need to go to the wayside. And a good example of that is sometimes during my launches, I'll lay off the videos, or I will combine what's happening on the blog with what's happening in the podcast. During the summer, for instance, because I'm preparing for a lot of stuff that's coming up, I'm going to be doing some repurposing of my podcast. You may have to do some things to reduce your busy workload, which you should be doing anyways, to be honest. So focus is really important. It doesn't mean that you can't do more than one thing for your business. It just means that when you set days to do things, you need to be focused on those specific activities in those days so that you can actually make headway. I mean, that's a real reason why planning might be pointless for you, is because that focus piece isn't there. I highly recommend the book One Thing. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember the name of it. Oh my gosh, I'll put the book in the show notes, but it's a great book on focus. I think there's tons of books on the topic of focus, but so I know you can find some. And I'll share my favorite resources down below. I think there's even an app that I heard the podcasters Screw the 9 to 5 that they shared on one of their recent podcasts. So look for the Focus app for Google Chrome. Okay, so besides all that, here's what you got to do. So you've made your plan. You've got it down in your Google Docs, whether it's a list, it's in your Asana, it's in Wrike, Basecamp, whatever it is. And you think it's what it should be. It might not have all the pieces, and that's okay. As long as you have like your big dates listed, when you're planning on opening the doors to your launch, let's say, if you want to do a webinar, big things that are going to live along the way that you know you need to get done. Maybe an affiliate program, maybe it could be a bunch of guest posts. Whatever it is, write out everything that you can think of for your launch. Once you have that, you are going to need to decide, and you can decide this in a few different ways. But first of all, to decide like what comes first, second, third, or fourth, I highly recommend just grabbing that launch planning workbook that I mentioned earlier, and that'll at least give you the first 10 steps and a lot to work on, to be totally honest. I know that free resources, it's good to give you quick wins, but I want you to actually launch. I don't want you to just download my tool list. I want you to actually get something out of this, and I want you to be able to get your idea out. I want that website relaunch to happen. I want that blog series to happen, or that 30-day challenge, or your launch of your first course. I want all of that to happen for you. So the first 10 steps are in there. After that, you'll have a good amount of work done that will really show you what needs to happen next. And then just chopping that list of stuff up by weeks. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just decide and be really realistic, be as realistic as you possibly can, what you can do each week. Then, this is the real secret. It's not even that. It's not even that. It's that each week, you're going to have your kind of chunk of stuff you know you need to get done. What I want you to do is go back to that list at least 2, maybe 3 times a week. The third being kind of the wrap up of the week. But go a couple other times during the week and check out your list. And not just to check off what you finished and say, oh, I'm so behind, but to decide, first of all, is there anything you can get rid of? Is there anything that can be moved that maybe you didn't even realize you're not going to be able to work on for weeks? So you're going to revisit the schedule, you're going to revisit your tasks for the week, and you're going to revise it, whether that means deleting something completely or pushing it off to a different time, a different week. And literally cross it out and write it in for that following week, or put another date on it. So this is what I have always done with anybody that I'm helping out with their launches. We go through, okay, you got to get this stuff done this week. Okay, you didn't get this stuff done this week, but that's okay because we had to push that off anyway. So change your focus to this. Now, every single week, you're going to be giving yourself that direction, unless you have a VA or a project manager. But it's probably a good idea to get yourself used to just look at your list and just ask, anything I don't need? Okay, done. Anything I can push off? Great. What have I finished? Boom, done. Then your final step for this revisit and revise process is to look at next week's tasks and ask yourself, what should I be having? What actually should I get done this week? And just pick a couple things. Don't go crazy and think you have to get ahead. Just pick a couple things that you're like, oh, this is kind of linked to what I was doing there. I'm going to handle those today. And that's it. This is like one thing that I have to say that I do on a regular basis. And it's very Scrum-like, but Scrum, you usually set a realistic set of goals or things to do within, let's say, a 2-week period. And at the end of the 2-week period, you figure out what didn't get done, backlog it, and then move it on. But I'm saying to be a little bit more proactive. So at the end of that week-long period, you can be like, wow, I actually finished everything I needed to finish for this week. Also, it keeps you super realistic about what your progress is. And you're not going to feel like you just made this to-do list and then it's sitting over in the corner collecting dust. Recently, I'm always tweaking my own process and the way that I work on things. And I realized that as much as I've tried my best to stay in just a few systems, I started spreading out everywhere. I love grid paper. I had this grid notebook, this Mead grid notebook that I loved it. So I have tons of notes in there. I had my Kate Spade, agenda thing, and I was feeling guilty. That's why I was using it. So probably about 3 weeks ago, I moved everything into one planner, and now I have a scheduled sync time where I make sure everything is written in that planner, or as far as like on the calendar in there, and any ideas are recorded and kind of prioritized. And then I also, what was the other thing that I did with it? Oh, well, I haven't done it yet. That's why. I have literally a pile of stuff I'm not allowed to add to until I sync it to whatever. And I'm going to do that same revise. Oh my God, I can't even say my own phrase. Revisit and revise process, even for that stuff, because ideas are great, but it's sometimes important to get them out of your system, but then you might realize, I don't really need to do them after all. So I need to go through that and be ruthless. That's my word when it comes to planning, ruthless planning. So I hope this video is helpful. I want to see you go through your task list, this week's task list right now. It's Monday, maybe, hopefully when you're watching this, but whatever day of the week it is for you, go right now to whatever you were planning to get done this week and revisit that list. Remove anything you know you're not going to do and you don't even really need to do. Move anything that can be moved 1 or 2 weeks ahead, and then grab a few things from next week that really should be this week. It's just going to get you in the mode of planning and knowing how to plan better and knowing how long things take, how long you take to do things. And then guess what? Over time, you're gonna be able to do less and less of those midweek check-ins to be like, oh, what should I get off this list and get on another? As soon as you start learning to plan better, and that only comes with time. So for now, I'd say for the next few months, do a 2 to 3 days a week check-in to your task list to make sure that you are actually on track. And if that's not enough, do it every day, dude. At the end of the day, just look at what you got. Do the revisit and revise right there. All right. Again, hopefully this was helpful to you, especially if you're planning to launch in the next 6 months or so. And if you are, actually, I have an invite for you. Come on over to Instagram, because on Wednesday, July 1st, I'm starting a month-long 30-day biz camp. And I know that it's a 31-day month, but 30 days just sounds better, right? So 30-day biz camp. And you can grab the little badge that's going to be on Instagram. I made some printables for your planner, and it's going to be great because it's going to make sure that you take action on at least one thing a day towards that launch, especially if you're launching in September. Oh my goodness, get to work, people, okay? All right, so head on over there. And then one final thing. Are you subscribed to this channel? Because if you're not, you're missing out. Subscribe, and then I come back every week and share some tips with you on how to get your big ideas out to the world. All right, have a great one, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.